The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good afternoon and Happy New Year. I'm Brittany Wismer, Vice President, Business Development at Congressional Bank. Welcome to our second Smart Series event, Grow and Scale Your Business During the Pandemic and Beyond. The purpose of the Smart Series is to inform our customers and our community members on valuable and timely topics that we hope will support your efforts in running a successful business. Congressional Bank has served the DC metro community for 17 years. In 2020, Congressional Bank provided over 1,700 PPP loans to small employers. 3/4 were to borrowers who were not existing bank clients. So this supported more than 45,000 jobs in our community. We are extremely grateful to have Seema Alexander, founder and chief strategy officer of Disruptive.CEO, with us today. With over 2 decades of experience as a business strategist and chief marketing officer, Seema partners with visionary entrepreneurs and professional services organizations to accelerate their impact and profit through her 6-step unique framework that helps companies find their niche positioning and eliminate competition. For the last 8 years, Seema has run her own growth advisory firm and is on a mission to serve 100,000 entrepreneurs and their companies by 2025. Towards the end of this session, Seema will interview 2 exceptional women entrepreneurs, Rachel Koretsky, the founder of U.N.I.Q.U.E, and organizer of DC Startup Week, as well as Ann Dolan, founder and president of Educational Connections Tutoring. This will be a jam-packed power hour of valuable information, so please use the questions box on the side of your screen to send us your questions throughout the presentation. So with that, let's get started with Seema Alexander.
Oh my God, Brittany, I am so excited. Can you see me okay and the screen okay?
I can.
Okay, perfect. First of all, I want to thank you and Congressional Bank so much. I mean, the work that you're doing and helping and supporting the local entrepreneurial community, especially today with the pandemic. I mean, kudos to you guys with all the loans you've given out and all the jobs that you have saved. So I am more than honored to be part of your Smart Series webinar. Today, I'm like so excited because I'm launching a methodology that I've been working with hundreds of clients over the years to really help them articulate how to niche in their market, how to eliminate the competition, and accelerate your impact and profit. But before we get started, I'm a big believer in setting intentions. You know, we've had an interesting year, an interesting night last night. I'd ask, I can't see you, this is not Zoom, but I would please ask that you close your eyes and just work with me for 1 minute, okay? And I'm gonna share something. Imagine a time when you wake up in the morning and you feel completely aligned to your brand and business. It represents your core values, it represents your why. It provides you motivation and drive to wanna tackle that next opportunity, next partnership, next sale over and over again. Your product offerings get raving reviews and you're providing the transformation in the impact that you were meant to provide. Your marketing and sales funnels are cohesive, working together, and you're targeting your ideal client over and over again. You're delivering what you promised, you're exceeding expectations. Your customers are basically selling for you, and the profits are coming in the door. You are living in the moment that all entrepreneurs dream of. Now open your eyes. You see, here is a quote that I live and die by with clients of mine, with people that I serve in multiple different ways. I share this, that entrepreneurship is living a few years of your life like most people won't. So you can spend the rest of your life like most people can't. The truth is, it's a journey. This does not happen overnight. But there's multiple things that we have to focus on to get us to where we are meant to be. So with that, if I didn't address 2020, it is behind us. Yet this time we're doing it with our eyes wide open for 2021. But if you were like most entrepreneurs, including myself, you probably felt like this woman on my left pulling her hair out. Like, who would have thunk it, right? At the same time, I added a second meme here because there are two individuals here. One, both of them getting the chair taken out from under them. One is sitting there grounded. The other one is literally the chair is taken out from under them. And that's the truth of the matter. There was a lot of also opportunity for some and literally challenges and pivots for others, right? So let's just take that in and also reframe it for me right now. I want you to kind of step back and say, okay, what could possibly be the good news from what happened over the last year? And I have, like, I always share, and I may be positive and optimistic, but it's more of, there is always a silver lining. And that silver lining is that it forced most of us to stop and pause, right? Just think about that. It forced you to reset. It forced you to assess what's working and what's not in your business. It forced you to look at your ideal client or your clients in general and figure out different ways of serving them because of what happened. But it also gave you an opportunity to think maybe a little bit more strategically about your business, right? There's a lot of times people say, hey, go work on your business, not in your business. When do you really have time for that, right? Lots of programs like EO and Entrepreneurial Operating System. We're going to talk about some of those that really help you get there as well. But this was a time for you to be honest and things and really take account for what you've learned. So this presentation is for you if you're a professional services company. You will find value in it if you're a product-based company, but it is more targeted toward professional services. If you're focused, you could be lean, literally 0 to 3 employees to about 250 employees. And you're at an inflection point, right? So this is really for if you're struggling to figure out ways to differentiate yourself against your competition, stand out in a crowded market. You may be focused on too many focuses in general, saying yes to too many things, serving too many ideal clients. So we're going to get into that specifically, what that impact does to your business when you're focused all over the place and around creating confusion in the market, because a lot of times people don't know who you actually are when you're working on too many things. And this is absolutely a great presentation for you if you're focused on looking for a strategy to help you find consistent ways to attract your ideal client, streamline your offers, and position yourself as a thought leader in your niche. This is not, and it's always important to put this in, this is not a conversation about people, processes, or technology, okay? And I want you to kind of take that in because most conversations around growth are, right? But this is about your evolved strategy, who you are as a company, a brand, a leader, and most importantly, you know, who you want to become. So this is a strategic exercise that we're going to go through where you're going to think through 6 different areas of your business to help you be more efficient with your people, processes, and technology and grow and scale. So I know Brittany just took a second and introduced me. I'm going to quickly kind of share a little bit of a backstory. I think it's always important to know why the person you're speaking to cares about this topic, and so a little bit about my background. So as Brittany said, I'm a founder of Disruptive.CEO. It's a strategic advisory and consulting firm specifically focusing with professional services companies and visionary entrepreneurs and repositioning their brands. They're a little later stage in their business. I'm also the founder of the U.N.I.Q.U.E method. You're going to hear a lot about that today. And I'm a mama of 2 little girls, 11 and 6, Serena and Raina, and 2 new 9-month-old puppies, Taji and Brooklyn. So with that, I have to share with you business growth. Your business growth is personal to me. And here's why. I started off in entrepreneurial roots. My parents were immigrants from India from the 70s, literally with one of those like immigrant stories, came here with nothing. They started the first Indian vegetarian restaurant, catty corner to the White House. Okay, it grew to 3, a travel agency. There was other things. I started working when I was 12 years old, from stacking inventory to managing people to making dosas, if you're familiar with Indian food, right? I was doing it all in a lot of ways, got a lot of great experience. But the experience that I got the most was that I saw a business go from thriving over a 20-year span, a pioneer in the industry, okay, to close to surviving 20 years later. And that surviving meant major financial implications. It meant the doors closed. It meant my parents got divorced. It meant 4 years later, My father, he tragically passed, and I watched and I learned, like, when a CEO and a founder, when things are going well, it is game changing, right? It's just a different feeling. You're standing up a little bit taller. But when things are not going well, it has implications on your relationship, your finances, your community, and the way that you show up. So for me, when I was 15 and getting calls from a bank around foreclosing my house, I started my mission then to understand why businesses fail and why they succeed. And I'll share in a few minutes the learnings that I've had over the years and the way that I work with clients and my framework over the years. But let's fast forward. I decided to run away from everything entrepreneurship. I wanted New York City. I wanted to be a Fortune 500 chief marketing officer. I was an anomaly in my generation, 13 years at Prudential Financial. But what happened there was incredible. I learned so many lessons. I worked with financial planners and agents through to about over 2,000 of them. Think about financial planners and agents. They're a commoditized business. How do you get them to stand out? How do you differentiate them, right, in the market? How do you get their businesses to grow, their practices to grow? I worked on the historical rebrand, the biggest repositioning of a financial services company, changing the perception internally and externally from this old stodgy insurance company to who they actually are, this conglomerate, major, like, billion-dollar investment firm, huge in retirement. But that whole process made me understand that businesses evolve. Businesses evolve and strategy evolves. And you have to take time to step back and really figure out where you want to go and then how you operationalize it, because that's what's going to differentiate you in the market. 7 years ago, I had a midlife awakening, probably a lot of what you guys have gone through with COVID, a little bit of a reset. This is a funny picture because it's the only one I have, but I'm in the hospital. I'm looking at my phone right after I had my first pulmonary embolism. And that's a blood clot that went from my calf to my lungs. I almost died twice in a week. I was told that I could have been a widowmaker because my medication wasn't working. All I kept thinking about was going back to work. It was a really interesting time for me, but it got me to stop and pause, like I ask you guys to do today with me for the next hour, okay? And so what it did is it made me think about, I love entrepreneurship. I was actually doing a ton of side consulting while I was in corporate. So I made the leap. I was in 2 health and wellness startups, and I started Disruptive.CEO. And I've been learning sort of the world of business on my own to grow and scale me, but more so every client, looking at it specifically in professional services, what is holding them back? What are the various strategies I've helped them put together to really build their businesses to the next level? So I've worked with hundreds of companies from small to Fortune 500, and it's resulted in enhanced brand authority, millions of dollars in revenue, and unmeasurable impact for the people that they serve. Today, I'm excited to share a couple things, right? So I want to pause and give you a little bit about evolution of business in general. And this is not easy, right? It can be the most exciting thing. It's truly your identity, right? But there's a lot of things that happen in the middle. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about what holds services-based companies back from growing. Lots of key learnings, lots of patterns I've seen over time, and from interviews, from working with people over and over again. I'm going to share the unique method with you, which is a 6-step formula for you to really own a niche positioning in your market and grow and accelerate your impact and profit. And then, as Brittany said, we have 2 great entrepreneurs who are going to share their growth stories. And they're not clients of mine per se. So it's just giving you a frame, a perspective, a different one on people that have been there and done that as well. Because I want this to be about real talk, right? This is real talk again. So let's talk about the evolution of business. Or before that, actually, I want to define the professional services market. Because a lot of times, people think it's consulting or it's business, it's that, but it's also communication services, it's environmental services, it's fintech, it could be government contracting, transport services, coaching, design, you name it. There are 1.6 million firms in the US that are focused on professional services. And here is the true evolution of a service-based entrepreneur, and the years may change here and there depending on, if you started off from scratch, if you took over a family business, why you started, if it was for conviction and experience reasons, if there was a gap in the market, or you were an accidental entrepreneur, different reasons, right? But in general, you launch that first year, you learn a ton, and you pivot the second year, third year even, you're gaining traction in some capacity. But there'll come a time where you need to start to think about some strategic decisions to reframe who you are and who you become, right? And then there comes the growth phases. But here's the real truth, okay? With all that, that's nice to say, the trajectory, but lots of things happen. Life happens, product market fit doesn't happen. Lots of good things happens, right? A lot of good things, a lot of great sales. So there's this up and down, right? But here's the two key things. 8 out of 10 businesses fail in the first 18 to 24 months. That's an obvious. I think that's something that has been instilled in most of us, right? But the area I'm focused on is half the businesses that remain fail at 5 years, and it just keeps going, those things. So I keep focusing on what made those folks in those firms, those entrepreneurs stand out, and how do you get there sooner? How do you accelerate that path sooner? So over a 20-year span of experience, client after client, case study after case study, research after research, I kept seeing patterns. All businesses evolve. Yes, that might be an obvious comment. I hear you. But truly, where you started is never where you end up. Okay, and the evolution occurs for many reasons. It could be product market fit, it could be COVID-19, it could be competitive entrance, market changes, personal reasons, lots of things. What I always find is interesting. So within my research, I always look at companies that I respect, like who've kind of built their niche over time, right? And really, you're starting to see the seeds that they have, sowing the seeds that they have made over the years. I'm pretty bad at analogies, guys. You'll notice that about me over time. So I have this really fun, and you guys can look at it too. It's called Wayback Machine, and it's a tool that I don't even know if you all know about it, but it captures your website from back in the day, all these multiple images over the years. So there is a real estate development firm called EYA, and I don't know the full strategy. This is just a tangible way of me showing you 10 years ago, this is what they look like. They had a little bit of a positioning, city living without compromise, but they're really known as developers in the market. Now, everything they do is life within walking distance. It has really become sort of their frame in how they look at business, how they look at growth, how they look at their vision. All their developments are close to walkable areas, right, for restaurants, and they're helping develop the entire area so that the people that their ideal client is a suburban person who wants that walkability, right? So it's just interesting to see how the businesses evolve. Now, the professional services companies that have gained some traction, but they struggle to grow, there are multiple reasons. These are the ones that stuck out to me, and I'm going to go deeper in some of these. So they either have no vision or just an uninspiring vision, and we're going to go into that actually in my framework. Too many focuses. It's a huge one. They say yes to everything. They have generic branding. They lack a strong online brand presence. They focus on just providing service versus providing a client transformation. So that's going to be another big one that we talk about. So want to know, let me share with you, so a little bit deeper in some of these. So some of my core findings have shared, people are scared to niche down. I'm going to pause there, right? So in general, you are somebody who's doing a service-based business and you're known as a generalist versus specialist, and that is the result. You're not known, you're not standing out in the market, you are more of a generalist. We're going to continue to build off of how all this stuff is going to impact your business over time. They didn't know their ideal client as well as they thought, right? So this is such a big one, right? Like, know your client, know thy client, do the research, talk to them. Things change over time, especially now with COVID. But what happens is when you don't actually talk to them, you're basing your product offerings on assumptions and not on the core pain points. Sometimes you're leading with what's nice to have versus what they want. So you can always give them what they want and then give them what they need, right? So this is a big deal. Another finding is there are too many focuses, right? And straight off the bat, this is discrediting your credibility with the lack of thought leadership. So you're kind of doing everything, you're full service, everything, right? And honestly, if you are having a team, a lot of times that also can create some frustration internally because you're not creating systems to scale, right? Everything is sort of this new project that you're building off for the next time. And then you're working with too many unideal clients. And what does that mean, right? So these are the folks that, look, in the beginning, you have to. You throw spaghetti against the wall. It's so normal, right? You're whoever can bring the revenue in the door, right? And you're learning. You don't really know all in the beginning who your ideal or unideal client is all the time, right? You have some perspective. Obviously, you're trying to solve a core pain point, right? But what happens when you work with unideal clients is they don't value you as much as you think. They're probably not willing to pay you the premium prices that you deserve. And what happens is it impacts over time the ability to provide exceptional service because you're doing sort of one-off things with the wrong folks. And lastly, what happens is that because you're not sure how to differentiate your brand because you haven't come up with a strategy to do so, I love this picture. It's normally in color, but it's like, where's Waldo, if you guys are familiar with those books as kids, right? And it's kind of like you look the same, even though you're not. Even though you're not. Everybody has a unique positioning. Everybody has expertise, especially if you've done this for years. You just have to own it, right? And articulate it. So here's my frustration. Very capable, smart entrepreneurs, experts. I mean, God, they're failing, are not reaching their full potential for impact and profit. And what I keep seeing are reflections when I speak to CEOs. It's like, I don't know why I'm not attracting my ideal client, or, my marketing and sales are just not working, or I hired this marketing agency and such a waste of my money. I'm so burnt out. Guess what? It's because it's not sometimes, it's not their fault. Some of these business model decisions have to be made for them to actually be able to convert on things that you're looking to do. Some of the prospects, when they look at sort of more of a generic look and feel of a business and a brand, may feel like, I don't actually know what they can help me with. There are all these services, but what's the actual transformation? And if there's no credibility, like in terms of like your online reputation, I don't that actually I can't tell you how many times I've heard this. Are they real? Like, what do they do? Especially for the deal makers in the room that are listening in, right? It's a big one. I know people, we're going to go into that in terms of credibility and thought leadership. And the last one is around employees, there's a lot of times where the employees feel like, if we're all over the place, how can we work on all these things, right? And deliver quality work? We need to focus, right? So there are plenty of amazing tools out there. This is just hitting the surface. Business Model Canvas, the Lean Startup, Entrepreneurial Operating System, which is fabulous for growth and scale when you're talking about technology, processes, data, issue traction, 100%. But what I really feel that there is a missing link. Before you get there, you need to reconcile your evolved brand in your business model. And it's not just focused only solely on the vision, but we're going to get that. But this is going to allow you to be even more effective with your people, processes, and technology, and more so stand out in your marketplace. So I decided I was going to create something myself with all the experience that I had, right? Here's a proven strategic framework. I worked over and over again with all these folks to find their unique positioning, accelerate their growth. And so it was born, the U.N.I.Q.U.E method, right? It's 6 critical strategic decisions that we're going to talk through that today, right? You're going to get a taste of it, okay? I can't, this is something that I work with clients for, I do workshops, 3-day workshops. I do consulting. I go into large group programs, right? But you're going to get a taste. You're going to get a framework. And I promise you that alone will help you if you really look at it in the lens of how do we become a go-to expert? How do we create a profitable niche and attract consistent ideal clients without second guessing yourself? And that's a big one, right? Because imposter syndrome is real. You're scared of FOMO. What about all these other clients outside the corridor? All of that will come into play here. So here it is, the U.N.I.Q.U.E method. And it is a 6-step formula to eliminate competition and accelerate your impact and growth. So I'm going to go through each one of these steps. And I'm also going to use a case study to help you kind of think about it from a client perspective. So the first one is developing a unicorn vision. Step 2 is to create niche positioning for who your ideal client is and specifically what specialty you are going to focus on. Step 3 is curating your own intellectual property, your proven IP from all the experiences and expertise that you have. Step 4 is focusing on qualifications and thought leadership to help you stand out in the marketplace. 5 is bringing it all together with a unified brand. And 6 is enrolling your network, and that is very strategic in the way that we're going to talk about that. So I'm going to share a case study of Turnkey Property Pro. Turnkey Property Pro used to be S7 Real Estate. You know, they've been in business several years. They were focused on a full service sort of development company in Philadelphia and Baltimore, focused heavily on committing to restoration. That was their focus. They want to change neighborhoods. Over time, with learnings, understanding their ideal client, got into this focus of Turnkey Property Pro. And I'm going to go through each step with you. So this has now become this, I'm an investor, I'm looking for a property. These guys are going to do everything for me. They have made it easy for me in a turnkey process. And we're going to talk about how they went from there to here. So step 1, identifying your unicorn vision. So I have a huge affiliation with this quote. When you're working on something that you truly care about, nobody has to push you. Your vision simply pulls you. It's Steve Jobs. So in a service-based industry, right, a lot of times, you may not even have a vision, or what you started with, it may not be what drives you today, right? Because over time, guys, when you're working in your business and all the operations, sometimes you fall in love, out of love with your business. So one of the first things I do first step I do with a lot of my clients is try to connect their vision to their personal connection and conviction, right, to their actual business. And I say develop a unicorn vision because unicorn, that concept, obviously you hear it with startups like Uber and all the big ones, right, like all of that. But unicorn, I Googled it. It actually, the secondary definition is something that's highly desirable but difficult to find or obtain. So what is it that you can represent that has more of an impact, what you're striving to create a transformation and your personal connection? That should truly drive your strategic growth going forward. So with that case study with Turnkey Property Pro, their old vision was transforming old places into new living spaces. It's great, it's nice, you know, but they're really focused on the actual property. It was sort of a different sort of vision. But now that they're clear on their ideal client, going after the specifically and looking at the connection between why they care about creating this turnkey approach, their vision went to help everyday people find real success in real estate investment. And it changed the game. It kept, you know, the days that entrepreneurship is hard, that vision sticks to that person's mind, right? It's like, that is why I'm doing what I'm doing. All the decisions have to be focused on that. All the partnerships need to be focused on that. The second step of the game is identifying your profitable niche positioning. So this is focus and being able to differentiate. You've probably heard this many times. When you market to everybody, you market to nobody. Okay, so there's three steps, but 2 main steps here, right? I need you to identify your real ideal client. Go back, right? There's no more spaghetti against the wall. Who is it that, you know, the work that you're doing, the transformation that you provide, the pain point that you're solving for, who is it? Now do some deep market research on your ideal client. Find their needs, their wants, their desires, where they hang out, all that stuff. But more so, you need to align that with the addressable market size, right? So there's market research both on the ideal client and as well as the market, because we want this not only to be a niche that you feel really good about, but you obviously want it to be a profitable niche as well. And the goal here is that we're going to move from being this generalist to a profit validated specialist through your experience. So I can't tell you how many times I've seen, like, okay, you know, I'm in the world of like a full service marketing agency, and I go after these 5, 6 different industries, and you know, we're pretty lean, we're about 10 people, and I'm like, okay, well, how many of each? Where do you, like, give me a little bit of history? And all of a sudden I get into the personal story, and then all of a sudden I hear, oh, well, we've been working with multifamily developers like this, and it gets so clear once you step back and start to really think about where's my experience, where's the most benefit and expertise I can provide somebody, as soon as you choose that and it's validated in the market, everything, your focus becomes so much more simpler. And I say simpler, I'm not being naive to what that means, right? But all of a sudden your content, the way that you could represent yourself in the market, your messaging, your sales, everything gets very clear when you know who you're going to serve and what niche you're going to go after. There is a saying that riches are in the niches. I say riches and more impact are in the niches. Here is for a turnkey, right, as the example. So in the previous target, they would, anyone willing to lend or wanting money, they would go after, right? In their current target, it's domestic and international real estate investors who want a turnkey solution, very specific. Now they know what type of brokers and partners to go after to help facilitate some of those discussions and those leads in the door. They were previously a full service real estate development firm operating in Philly and Baltimore. Now they're a full turnkey real estate investment firm. Doesn't matter where you're looking to invest, right? But their properties are very specific. And we're going to go into all of their messaging in a few minutes. The third step of the process is establish your proven intellectual property. And here is where I tell you, you need to own your excellence. A lot of you have been in business for a long time. A lot of you have expertise that so many people do not have, but so many people need. Now, what you need to do is sort of wrap that up in a framework, wrap it up in a methodology. There are a lot of people out there reimagining, dentistry, for example. I have a client. She owns about $1.5 million practice in Clarendon called Clarendon Dental Arts. But she's looking at the mouth as a gateway to your body. She's not looking at you're coming in and I'm going to give you fix a root canal, right? They do a comprehensive exam to see what's going in your mouth that could prevent you from having disease later, autoimmune disease later. Or if something is truly going on in your mouth, what is actually happening? And curating processes where they're talking back to their actual doctors and leveraging technologies to really bring it all together in terms of the experience somebody has. They do DNA tests. I mean, it's a pretty comprehensive process, but it's different. It's different. But it's aligned to the vision, aligned to their thought leadership. We're going to get into that in a second, right? But if you can do something more, saving your customer time, more convenience, and save them money, I mean, those are the three that always pop up. Curate it in something like intellectual property. So this is your thing and only your unique thing, right? And then on top of that, what I ask you is identify your unique value proposition. So you have your process. So let me give you an example. It's always easier when you think about it from an example perspective. Turnkey Property Pro, okay? So they do have their process. You go in, we manage your, we find your asset, we'll renovate your property, and you get the returns. They have a whole thing around turnkey, but their unique value proposition is not only are they going to find you a property and vet it for you, and it's 25% less than market value, so you're already creating equity. They're going to find you a tenant and guarantee a 1-year lease. I mean, like, really, like, this is like a package with a bow, right? Because now competitors are not doing that. They did their research, right? And they found partners. It doesn't always have to be you doing it. That's another thing for you to understand, right? They found partners who could do that for them because they're getting the property management fee, right? So anyway, that's a different business model discussion, but it's an important one because I need you to think outside the box here, right? Step 4, identify your qualifications and thought leadership platform. So in general, a thought leader is someone with proven expertise and experience who's compelled to share it with the world. I'm a big person, if you can't tell, impact and profit. But what I hate the most in this industry is when people's credibility is questioned and when they're experts. And it's because they lack social proof. They lack the reasons why people should believe that they can create the transformation because they haven't done the work to create the information, the case studies, the testimonials, whatever. They also lack the credibility because they haven't curated the thought leadership in their niche because they're confused, right? When you're very general, you could write about a lot of things, but that doesn't mean, and it's not just about writing, it's the way you show up, right? And so this lack of social proof, I've seen it over and over again. It translates into a lack of credibility, but also it deters consideration more than ever before. Guys, we live in a world of Google and LinkedIn. If you're in Clubhouse yet, that is the amazing new social app that is going to blow businesses out of the water. But don't be the best kept secret. Don't be the best kept secret. Really own your excellence and really build to that thought leadership. And guys, all of this, like, you know, you have your vision, you become more niche, you create your intellectual property. Now you know where to build that thought leadership, where you're going. And so if you again, going back to Turnkey Property Pro, right? They started getting, building relationships with the media and, you know, starting to build some of that editorial credibility, right? They have proof, because this is the thing. This is not, you're not just starting out. This is, you've been in business for a while, right? So you need to add up that proof, right? So they know on average their properties are $95,000. Their average rent income is 12.3% our average client ROI on their investment. The CEO is out there, you know, he was focused on creating CEO branding. That's a different conversation for another day, but that just to show you credibility matters, right? Step 5, develop a unified brand. So Jeff Bezos, CEO of Amazon, says your brand is what other people say about you when you're not in the room. And I know when you're in the beginning stages and you're, you know, look, this is a process, it's an evolution. But once again, these steps get you clearer and clearer to who you are. And when you have that clarity yourself, you can help articulate that clarity for your company in the minds of your audience, right? And that exciting part, what's exciting is that if this is a clarity that you have in the mind of your ideal client, you know, people want to be part of something like that, right? Whether it's your consumer, for some folks who are looking for investments, or definitely your employees if you are in that stage of growth. So here, you know, I'm a big believer, you got to speak to the transformation you're providing your client versus the service itself. You know, this whole part brings it all together. And actually, instead of going through the steps, I'm going to show you a tool I use with a lot of my clients. And this is sort of like bringing all of those pieces that we just talked about together, right? Who we are. What's our internal brand promise? No matter what, we provide best available properties at discounted prices from market prices. So any property that we have, that is going to be our focus. Our UVP, our unique value proposition, is we not only find properties, we renovate, manage, and guarantee a qualified tenant for the first year. Their external creative is real estate investment made easy. They have brand characteristics. They have a vision to help everyday people find real success in real estate investment. But this last section is really important. It's like, what are your core pillars of your company? The key messages and the reasons to believe. That last side, you know, okay, we're market experts. You could say that, doesn't everybody? But what is it proof in the pudding that says you do that? What's your turnkey proof? What, like, you know, and again, I was just picking and choosing some of these messages, but this tool is where decisions are made and you are so clear on who you are and what you do and who you serve. So if you were to ever hand this off to a marketing agency and you needed that support, you know, and obviously guys, you need help sometimes in getting to this place. It's not easy to do when it's just you thinking through it and not getting probed on the right questions. It's part of the process. I get it. But these frameworks should help you start thinking in a direction of like, okay, I see where she's going. I see these are some of the missing pieces that I can implement in my business. So again, I was just showing you some things that they have in the market. Well, the last step in the process is enroll your network. I cannot tell you enough. Your network is your net worth, right? I used to say that the biggest seed to plant is sort of the network. It's like that long-term marketing strategy is your network with partnerships and marketing. But in this particular frame, right, I want you to enroll your targeted network. So what does that mean? All of a sudden, you know your vision, you know your niche positioning, you have intellectual property, you're building thought leadership. But like, you know, when you go out, now you have to think about who you should be creating and cultivating networking relationships with, that you can create relational capital. So it's not a one-way partnership. It's an opportunity to create real ambassadors and also provide, you know, a win-win for both sides, lead generation, commission splits, you know, all of that can be combined. So again, let me give you an example with Turnkey Property Pro. Now they're focused on strategic partnerships with key brokers who are focused on multiple platform investments and international investors. Other brokers who are focused on finding the ideal tenant. They're working with strategic partnerships with the city officials with Philadelphia and Baltimore to find blocks of new homes at discounts, right? Strategic partners with local developers on partnering on opportunities, property management, media and journalists, so they become that go-to in that niche. It just makes what you're trying to do so much more focused, right? When you develop your unicorn vision, when you focus on a niche positioning, you move from a generalist to a specialist, you create your intellectual property proven expertise with your UVP, you focus on qualifications and thought leadership, so you're building that credibility that you already have, You guys have been working, right? This has been it's just bringing it all together. You have your unified brand messaging and you will target your targeted network. What happens with the outcome here is that your vision starts to inspire and it drives strategic growth decisions. You're clear on who you are. There's no more of like, huh? Well, tell me what you do again. Because you're very clear on your transformation, your client, you're building your strong expertise. At least right? You're building a strategy so that you can do these things. And mainly your brand is speaking to your unique positioning and it's standing out in the market. The last thing I'll do before I bring these incredible speakers up to kind of share their story is it's the things that you need to watch out for if you're not considering a method like this. So the danger of using the wrong methods is that you stay stagnant. You're not doing the work to really get to your full potential of impact and profit. The wrong resource can leave you feeling unaligned to your business. So that means you're falling out of love with your business, which is also normal, right? But how do you reinvigorate is what you should be thinking about. And the wrong execution, man, it's like not delivering on your brand promise and having your clients and your team not believe in what you're doing. So with that, this is not an easy choice, right? I've shared this slide early on. This is, I feel so strongly about this inflection point in businesses, right? There's a tipping point. It may not be at 5 years. It's like, you can do the year thing that I shared. This slide shows you're developing, you're at emerging time. There's a strategic time before you get into market leading. You have a choice to make. There's so many experts I know that don't take their businesses over to that next phase because they haven't done this part of the work, and they're so smart. It like kills me inside. And they've built traction, but this is the opportunity to make a bigger impact on what you guys do. So before I bring Rachel and Anna on, I wanted to provide an opportunity. If you're looking for an outline of the U.N.I.Q.U.E method or a 30-minute consult, please reach out to me at Seema@Disruptive.CEO, not .com, okay? Or you can reach out to me directly on LinkedIn. I think this is a really great opportunity for you to step back, and there will be a recording of this conversation so you can go back and listen to what I've shared, but I would look forward to speaking to many of you after the fact. So with that, I am super excited. Rachel and Ann, if you could turn on your videos for me. We have Rachel Koreski, who's the founder of U.N.I.Q.U.E and the organizer of DC Startup Week for the last 7 years, incredible entrepreneur. We have Ann Dolan, who's the founder and president of Educational Connections Tutoring. Again, we're bringing these amazing local female service-based providers up to share their growth stories, because for me, I'm building a framework because I see the patterns, but I want you to hear from real folks of what's resonating with them, what are the challenges and the opportunities that they have gone through within their own growth, right? So with that, I would love, Rachel, if you could share 2 minutes about the inception of U.N.I.Q.U.E and your growth strategy. No, your growth journey, sorry.
Hello, thank you so much. Of course, thank you, Seema. Thank you for having me. Hello, everyone. My name is Rachel Koreski. I'm the founder and CEO of U.N.I.Q.U.E. I started U.N.I.Q.U.E right after I graduated from college, of really experiencing this problem within fitness and recreation centers of members and attendees frustrated when it was too crowded or not being able to get into a class, a cardio equipment, and then leaving frustrated or having to wait and having it affect not only your mental health, but also the time that you're committing into it. So that's where I came up with this idea to utilize technology, both mobile and web-based technology, that allows members to be able to see how crowded the gym is, make reservations, as well as have two-way connections with it. So it really was a personal problem, and just doing a ton of research and informational interviews with members of recreation centers, as well as directors and employees of these, to really understand, is this a problem I just experienced or something that actually is, could be a business. And that's what I learned and found out. Our growth strategy, we've really grown over the course of the last 2 years. And a part of it was making pivots of really understanding what, and as Seema talked about, what are kind of like the must-haves or the nice-to-haves, and really figuring out how do you best communicate it, as well as how do you kind of create that urgency. One thing that we utilize is during really the last year of the pandemic is a lot of these centers needed technology to reopen. So pivoting somewhat of the technology, but also just pivoting the way that we're communicating about the technology and how it could help. So it's kind of looking at the industry and what's going on and figuring out how do we place ourselves where we're a must-have in order to operate instead of a nice-to-have.
There we go. I have so many follow-up questions, but before I do that, I would love Anne to give a little intro and a little bit about the growth for educational connections tutoring.
Sure, Seema, I would love to. So I started my business actually in, actually it's been 23 years this year, and it was kind of an accidental start. I was a teacher in Fairfax County Public Schools, and on the side, to make extra money, I would drive to kids' homes and I would tutor them one-to-one. And I realized over time that this was my calling in life, that I love these kids and helping these kids one-to-one more than anything else, including other parents. So I took a complete leap of faith, quit my job, and I started a little tutoring business. It was just me, and I thought it would just be me. But over time, actually within the first year, I had kids during the day, homeschoolers, students at night and on weekends. And then one day my neighbor called the police because so many parents were dropping off and picking up and dropping off and picking up. And I didn't realize in Fairfax County, you can only have 4 people come to your house in any given day. So I had to quickly pivot. I hired some people to work for me, and that's how I got going. And over the years, we've grown a lot. And then more recently, we had to pivot again in March.
So let me ask you, let's just get into it, right? So maybe Rachel, will start with you. So after hearing about the U.N.I.Q.U.E framework, right? Although it's a sort of a cohesive, for me, it's step by step in different ways. Some of it can be messy, but we get there to the end, right? What part of that framework stuck out to you the most, and why?
I think a part of it really stuck out to me was the niche positioning of really finding what is your position in the market, what is really unique to what you're building and what you're working on. And that was something really in the last year that has been extremely beneficial, kind of finding out what are those 2 to 3 features of being a technology startup that we really need to push forward, and that, and how it really helps is actually who we're targeting as well as becoming clients, and just being very clear on that. And that was something that of the last year, we were really working with a lot of Jewish community centers and just really being able to get into more, but it also led to kind of your next steps of a unique method of thought leadership and positioning yourself and just meeting and having a lot of those connections, but also leading to that community talking about you and your product when you're not in the room, on their own email chains or their own Facebook groups. And that's the most powerful, when you don't have to be your salesperson or you don't have to sell yourself. Other people are doing it for you. And that's what led to us to get a significant amount of new clients in that particular market this year, is just because they worked internally to other community centers.
Yeah, and Rachel, what's interesting is your team is a little leaner than I believe Anne's team is. So this is sort of why one of the things that I was sharing with you, it doesn't matter sort of how many people you have, this framework can work well and help you just stay super focused. So Anne, I would love to get your thoughts on sort of what stuck out to you, and specifically, what have you also used within your business that, that can validate some of it.
Well, it's interesting because, Rachel, I second that. You know, I try to be everything to everyone. Parent called for a music lesson. We can help. Your child needs help getting special services in school. We can do that. And at one point we had over 200 tutors, and it was just so hard to manage. And I realized we cannot be everything to everyone. Now we only offer 3 services, and we have about 120 tutors, and it's just a lot more manageable for my team. We're super focused on what we do. So Seema, to your point, that the niches are in the riches, at least for us, that has definitely been true. We've been able to actually reduce our office staff because we've really focused on what are the things that we're already really good at, that are our core, what's our core business, and just dive in there.
Oh my God, you're just making me so happy. One, it's, for me, it's the riches and more impact are in the niches. And what you guys do both is for executive functioning and also college prep. I mean, there's you and I, again, Ann and I just met last week, but her conviction of what she does. And also one of the things that you do, you're a thought leader in the space, and you talk a lot about your business and on public platforms. So maybe can you share a little bit, because it feels like the intertwining of your vision, the narrowing down of your niche, and then you're bringing out the thought leadership. How did you leverage the thought leadership, and what do you speak about, and how has that impacted your business?
It impacts my business a lot. So a lot of our referrals are from public speaking. You know, I'll go to schools. I used to go, now it's online. I've worked with school districts across the country because parents are really struggling in this virtual environment. So what I've tried to focus on is really working with parents on executive function skills. And these are things that are not taught in school. They have to do with things like focus, and are you able to bat away distractions? Can you stay organized? Can you plan ahead? And those are the most frustrating things for parents. It's not really, you know, did you get the spelling word right? It's, oh my gosh, are you procrastinating again? And so I found that, you know, speaking to schools, parents, administrators, specifically in those areas, has really helped bring new clients into our business. But, you know, honestly, there's a lot of people that can't afford our service, or they don't need our service to this degree. And I've been able to help them through public speaking and videos that I have, and that just feels really great.
I love it. I love it. And Rachel, could you share, I know, you know, we worked a lot on your sort of your vision and sort of reconnecting to your vision, because when you're in tech too, right? And there's a lot of, in general, you get focused on the everyday, the operations. Oh my God, I have another client and they need this and this feature and the business requirements. But how did you re-engage with your why and your vision? What did that look like, that process?
I think a part of it's like taking a step back, because you get so involved in the day-to-day operations, or this feature, or this client needs X, Y, and Z, and you're just so focused and kind of like in a heads down mode of just work, that sometimes you just get so drained. And kind of, you know, pre-pandemic of about like a year and a half ago, you're trying to figure out, like, is this, you know, after 5 years, you kind of take that step of like, you're just so drained from working so hard, you have to reconnect to your why and kind of take that step back and be like, why did I start this company in the first place? What is important to me? And then kind of use that as a driving path. So a huge part of that was understanding why we even built this software in the first place, to help members, people get connected to health and wellness and fitness. And really look at that, and especially when the pandemic hit, it kind of made our why even more important, of how do we help people do that safely during this time where they're able to go and manage that, or even if it's at home, but how do we help our clients stay alive, you know, still be able to maintain some type of income while their members still able to benefit from their services. So I think kind of realizing that, and realizing how big of an impact we do have. And some of it's just talking to your clients. You know, sometimes you get just pulled into, what do you need? What are the next features you're looking for? But sometimes you forget to ask, like, how is my technology making an impact in your day-to-day operations? In hearing that of, we improved their time, we saved them money, they were able to better use staff, to learn those things, and you're hearing from them, that's what inspires me. And that's really my why that gets to it. So sometimes it's taking a step back and just like asking the clients, like, how's it going? How have you find the benefits of the features, the technology? And those are the powerful testimonials. And sometimes it reminds the clients themselves how much we've helped them, and kind of taking that step back of just looking at, you know, the little bits and bits of technology.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much goodness in that because one, you're speaking to your clients, so you're hearing what's going on with them right now because clients do evolve, their needs evolve. You just got a testimonial from them, which you can also ask in a nice way. Hopefully, it's a good one. That way, that helps you with your own credibility. But just connecting, that's why I'm a big believer. My mantra has always been impact and profit. So if you're in business just to make money, that's that works for some businesses, right? But a lot of service-based businesses that I work, there's always a deeper reason. There's always a deeper reason. And when you connect to that and add it to the acceleration of profit, I think that's when things can really be game-changing for you, inspiring your employees, inspiring the stakeholders, and if you have investors all around you, right, bringing them into the mission that's much bigger than yourself, right? So with that, we only have a few minutes. I'm going to ask you, what advice would you give other business owners that are feeling like they're at this inflection point, this tipping point is the way I call it?
I can go in. Yeah, I can answer that. I've had a lot of inflection points in my business. And like everybody listening, I'm sure that in their life, they've had these times where like, what am I doing? Where is this going? And I remember I was at an education conference one year. This is probably like 15 years ago. And I just said that we were on this bus going to the next event. And I said to the person sitting next to me, I don't know if I can do this anymore. And he said, have you read this book called The E-Myth? And I'm like, no, what's that? So the first thing I did when I got home is I went to the bookstore and I got The E-Myth. And I realized my problem had been I was working in my business and not on my business. And that was what was so draining for me. So at that point, I made that a real shift. It was over time. It wasn't immediate. But that was really what kind of allowed me to keep going when things felt like really arduous and tough, allowing other people to share in some of the duties and not feeling like I had to be the perfectionist and do everything myself.
Love that. Rachel?
One of the huge moments that, I had about a year and a half ago is this point where you're building your business and you're working in it, and sometimes you set your goals a little bit lower. Like, I'll be happy if I get 2 new clients this month. And one of the things, and it's actually Seema who recommended reading the book, The 10X Method by Grant Cardone, about just changing your mindset about how you're thinking of it. So if you're thinking of 2, make that 10X of that number. So then just changing your goal and changing your mindset sometimes does make a huge difference. And that was something that was really crucial for me, kind of getting out of that like survival mode of, just making sure that we can, survive and just continue to be bootstrapped in growth, but kind of looking at it and kind of saying, how do I 10X everything that I'm doing? And even if you get half of that 10X, you're still so much better than what you might have been with that original goal that you might have set months previously.
That is such a good point, Rachel. I feel like I've been working with clients to put numbers associated to their goals. So there's a nonprofit that's based out of Spain. They've done amazing work on alleviating poverty all around the world. I'm trying to get them to commit to a 5 million person number, in the next couple of years, and it's very doable for them with their partnerships, right? For me, even, I put that number 100,000. I want to influence 100,000 entrepreneurs by 2025. Now I'm committed. I just made myself accountable to all of you, and it just changes sort of that level of like, you have work to do, like get focused, right? And so I think like both of you, first of all, unfortunately we're running out of time. I could speak to you all day, but thank you both for being on, sharing your authentic self with us and where you've gone with your businesses. I hope to do this again soon and get a lot deeper. So I'm just gonna go back to the presentation if you guys don't mind taking off video for 2 seconds if folks can stay on. So again, thank you, Rachel and Ann Dolan. I actually, funny enough, I had the slides using the Wayback Machine with U.N.I.Q.U.E, what it used to be and where you are now, just to show the evolution and education connection. I always think, again, that's just a fun exercise to do. And in summary, guys, what you focus on grows. This is a quote, and I'm not taking credit for it. I've heard Tony Robbins say it. I've heard multiple gurus say it, but it's true. What you focus on grows, right? So again, if you would like an outline of the unique framework, please reach out to me at Seema at Disruptive.CEO or on LinkedIn at Seema Alexander. this is an interesting time in your business. It's a tipping point, right? And so I would really hope that you took a lot of what we talked about today and are able to frame it in your own businesses to accelerate your growth and impact and be that leader that you're meant to be. So thank you for having me, Brittany. I think I'm just a few minutes over.
No, that was so fantastic. Huge thank you to Seema, Rachel, and Anne. Please feel free to email any of the presenters with additional questions. Sorry, we did not have time for Q&A today, but I will definitely be following up in the next day or so with the recording of this video, and feel free to share it with others that you think would benefit from this information. Quick reminders, future Smart Series topics will include fraud prevention, capital raising. A survey will pop up at the end of this webinar. Please provide your feedback, ideas for future topics, and questions to us. And lastly, if you're not already a deposit customer of Congressional Bank, we invite you to experience community banking client service at its best. So contact me for details. Thank you for your time and take care.
Take care. Thank you all.